It's a common misconception that global warming is only a recent phenomenon, when in reality, global warming has occurred for over millions of years. Dating back to millions of years ago, we can see prehistoric cases of global warming. The Paleocene-Eocene thermal maximum occurred roughly 65 million years ago, and due to the eruption of volcanoes and land masses splitting apart into modern-day continents, there was an excess of carbon dioxide in the environment, which caused the global temperature to increase by 5 degrees. This led to oceans acidifying and permafrost melting. It took 200,000 years for the excessive carbon to be absorbed from the atmosphere, returning to the average temperature. Time passed on, with periods of warmth, such as the medieval warm period, and cooling, such as the Little Ice Age. And I believe that the period that global warming really became an issue is as of the beginning of the first industrial revolution in 1760, beginning anthropogenic global warming, with machinery replacing manual labour and fossil fuels being used to fuel them. The effects were not noticed until Guy Stewart Callendar in 1939 noticed an increase in global temperature, known as the calendar effect. From the Second World War and its aftermath, the Earth began to be polluted by sulphur, and so it actually cooled down until the 1970s. An argument as to why people do not believe in global warming. They even thought there could be another ice age. However, from the 1970s, temperature increased, with 1988 being the hottest year ever recorded up until that point. It's argued that the Earth isn't actually getting warmer, as skeptics believe that the graphs and resources from scientists aren't reliable and are arguably biased. People also argue against it as there hasn't been a significant change in temperature since the 1990s, although the period between 2002 and 2009 is the hottest ever recorded. It's now believed that, like the change from the Paleocene era to the Eocene era, we could enter a new era, the Anthropocene, from the effects of global warming.
There are two main arguments in support of the existence of global warming. The first is that it is happening as a direct result of the actions of humans, while the other is that it is being caused by a natural cycle. There is overwhelming evidence to prove that humans are having a huge impact, and a review in 2013 stated that over 97% of climate change studies agreed that humans were the main cause. The principal argument is that increasing emissions from humans through the burning of fossil fuels to generate electricity and to power cars was a major contributory factor. This releases huge amounts of carbon dioxide, which increases the size of the hole in the ozone layer, so that energy from the sun isn't deflected as much in the atmosphere and the Earth heats up. Many scientists are searching for new ways to produce electricity which don't emit CO2, such as wind power or hydroelectricity, because they are worried about the consequences of the human CO2 emissions and global warming. This describes how the greenhouse gas effect is caused by global warming. All across the world, trees are being cut down to use their wood or to make space for buildings, amongst other things. Deforestation is a huge issue in the Amazon rainforest especially because it is the world's largest carbon sink, which means that it absorbs the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere to use it in the photosynthesis of trees and other plants. The trees then release the oxygen as a waste product, which is crucial to humans for respiration. By cutting down trees and destroying plants, not only is the Earth's vital oxygen reserve diminishing, but it also means that not as much CO2 is being taken from the atmosphere via the photosynthesis process. This means that not only are CO2 levels in the atmosphere rising because humans are producing more, but because not as much is being removed. In addition to the carbon dioxide emitted from cars and power stations, the increase in CO2 levels contributes to global warming because the sun's energy can reach the Earth more easily and heat it up because the ozone layer weakens. Another reason why global warming is real and is happening is that as the population of the Earth increases, so does the amount of food required. Animals are extremely bad for the environment because they produce a lot of greenhouse gases. A dairy cow produces 110.7 kilograms of methane each year, and a beef cow produces 50.5 kilograms, which has a huge impact on the greenhouse gas levels in the atmosphere and further contributes to the weakening of the ozone layer. Conversely, there is a theory that the natural cycles cause global warming because the emissions that humans produce are nowhere near enough to have an effect on the core temperature of the Earth. Instead, those people would argue that it is in fact fluctuations in the sun's solar forcing which cause the change in the temperature of the Earth, as it is an extremely powerful energy source. A prominent example of different cycles in the Earth's temperature is that every 100,000 years or so, there is an ice age because the temperature drops so low. However, the temperature has always increased again and the Earth has thawed, proving that natural cycles do affect the Earth without the influence of humans. It has also been argued that global warming isn't happening because there is significant evidence that the Earth hasn't actually warmed since 1997, which contradicts the belief that global warming is real. There is also the viewpoint that there is no solid scientific proof for or against global warming, but everything has actually been decided by a scientific consensus, which leads some people to not have any opinion about whether global warming is real or not.
The effects of global warming are colossal. The impact it will have if the current trend of warming continues will reach out for decades. The most concerning effect of warming is the rise in sea levels. The global mean sea level, or GMSL, has almost doubled in the past century from 10 to 20 centimetres, with the annual rate of rising also doubling to 3.2 millimetres per year. This has been due to a number of factors that are caused by global warming. Firstly, water expands when its temperature increases, meaning it will occupy more space as it does so. Also, ice caps and glaciers that melt naturally during summer have melted more and more in recent years. NASA say that in the 1990s, around 12 billion tonnes of ice was added to the Arctic. From 2003 to 2008, this figure had been reduced by a significant amount. 1/4 less of ice in mass manifested on the Arctic ice sheet in this period. However, it has been argued that the Antarctic is gaining ice, suggesting that the concern over global warming's impact of ice isn't so dangerous. During the 1970s, the Antarctic has gained an average of 7,300 square miles per year, but NASA have countered this, saying it won't disprove global warming as it is global temperatures that have gone up and sea ice mass worldwide has decreased, particularly in the Arctic, where an average of 20,800 square miles of ice has been lost each year. And of course, this will result in massive raising of GMSL. Recent studies state that between now and the end of this century, sea levels could rise by as much as 2 metres. Such a massive raise in our oceans would bring devastation to low-lying lands. Bangladesh, the east coast of America, and the lowest lying country on Earth, the Netherlands, would see catastrophic destruction from flooding. Though flood defences are continually advancing, they could potentially cost billions. Moreover, the poorest, less economically developed countries like Bangladesh would not be able to afford such defences without massive inpouring of foreign aid. The result would be huge loss of life, infrastructure, homes and businesses, and crippling the economies of affected countries. With Earth's surface warmed from an average of 15 degrees Celsius by up to 6 degrees Celsius by the end of this century, the climate would dramatically change as a result. This would bring long droughts, excessive periods of rainfall, unprecedented heat waves, and an increase in tropical storms. All of these weather events are caused by a warmer climate, particularly in the Americas and Africa. As well as losses in affected countries, the world's economy would slump. Crops grown in Asia, Africa, America and elsewhere would be damaged by the effects of climate change, and so supply would deplete. And with a rapidly growing world population, demand would increase. The combination of the two would push prices up and trade down. Mentioned are but a few of the potential effects that global warming and consequent climate change would have. But is global warming real?